SF Sarah, you're up. What's up?
Oh, hey. Still fertilized.
Hi.
So if your senator is like, hey, what's up? So I wanted to clarify your position. Um, so if zygotes were persons at the moment of conception, would you just be pro-life?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think you'd have to be.
Okay, so I want to give you a hypothetical.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say person A shoots person B, and person B will die unless he gets a blood transfer from person A.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that person A should be obligated to give person B their blood?
Hmm. I feel like morally, I would say yes. Legally, there might be reasons why that I'm not aware of right now. Why you'd say no, but I like legally, I almost wouldn't be opposed to that. Like that's, I think I'd be like on the fence for that one.
Mm. Okay, yeah, because I'm just thinking that if you weren't to bite the bullet on that, then you'd have to say that, a person who would murder somebody has less duty to their victim than a mother does to a zygote or a fetus.
A person who murders their victim would have less of an obligation to them than a mother does to their zygote.
Yeah, like if
Who's
you took
committed to that position or what?
the pro-life position would be committed to that because they're saying a mother has to, go through with pregnancy,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not necessarily clear if a person who would murder somebody would have to give up their blood to save them. And that's not really, a precedent we have in law
Oh,
that I'm aware of.
yeah, I understand what you're saying. Okay, I like that one. That's cute.
And that's more on the bodily autonomy side of things. Um, and I wanted to give another hypothetical. Let's say I had a magic wand, and if I tap somebody with it, it'll simulate all of the physical components of pregnancy, but without actually creating a fetus.
It would simulate. Wait,
Would
wait, hold
it
on.
be?
Wait. Give me 1 second. Hold on. Um,
uh
okay. I just want to write down that last argument. Okay. Sorry. Okay, do that again. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So let's say I have a magic wand. If I tap somebody with it,
Mm-hmm.
it'll simulate all of the physical aspects of pregnancy without actually creating a, fetus or zygote.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be justified to kill that person in self-defense if that was the only way to prevent them from tapping you with the wand?
Yes, I would say absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so then if somebody takes a pro-life position, then
Mm-hmm.
if we say that that's the sort of thing that would warrant lethal self-defense,
Mm-hmm.
then we're saying that the fetus has sufficient moral worth to subject a woman to that sort of experience,
Mm-hmm.
the sort that we would normally say justifies lethal self-defense.
Sure. So I understand that argument. So I feel like mens rea, or I feel like state of mind. In the worst cases, it won't matter. But I think that there is a Venn diagram. There's like a middle group of cases where it does matter. So let's say hypothetically, there was a 4-year-old pedaling some kind of bike vehicle that was going to run you over, and the only way to stop it was to push a button and blow up the bike vehicle. Okay,
Mhm.
whether it's an adult, whether it's a 10-year-old, whether it's a 2-year-old, you're going to be killed or like seriously maimed. I think that you can argue, even with a lack of agency or criminal intent or malicious intent on the part of the operator, you are allowed to defend yourself there, right?
Mhm.
Now, I think there's a category of actions where, let's say that a person, let's say you're even in your home and a person comes up and they're like, I'm gonna punch you, I'm gonna hit you, okay? Let's say you see an adult coming up to you and he's like, I'm gonna punch you, and he walks up to you and you see him coming. I think if it's an adult, they know what they're doing. They can understand you saying, hey, like, I don't want you in my house. I don't want you to come and hit me or whatever. And they're walking up to you. I think you have a right to lethal self-defense there. I think that if it's like a 4 or 5 year old like playing and they're like in a game and they think they can run at people's houses and hit them, I don't know if you necessarily would have the same right there to lethal self-defense, even if you were made to suffer the hit, because it wouldn't be maiming, it wouldn't kill you, anything like that. I think that there's a group of people who don't have necessarily the capacity for the mens rea, for the criminal intent, for the super malicious intent to do a thing, that you wouldn't have that same right to lethal self-defense for if the non-developed people were doing something that would kill you, or if more developed people were doing something that wouldn't kill you but know better. And I think that
Yeah.
the argument for pregnancy is like in that bucket, to where I use the word inconvenience, and I know it triggers the fuck out of women or people that argue this thing, but like generally speaking, pregnancy is a very large inconvenience, but it's generally speaking, it shouldn't be life threatening. And the baby is not making the choice. They don't have the agency to maliciously attack your body, right? Such that like if it was an adult or somebody that knew better that could tap the magic wand on you, absolutely you could kill that person. But if somebody who doesn't know, they don't have the agency to do that, and in a way you're like, I think for rape, it might get harder to argue this, but like at least for ordinary sex, there's the possibility of conceiving a child. I think it becomes harder if you grant that that's like a life, that like, well, I can lethally defend myself against a situation that I knew was possible of occurring when there's a person who doesn't know better,
Yeah, I get what you're saying. You're distinguishing between an innocent aggressor and like a villainous aggressor.
Correct.
Um,
There are types of
I
actions
hold
an
the
innocent
position.
aggressor can be killed for, but there are types of actions that the malicious aggressor could be killed for, but I think the innocent aggressor maybe couldn't be killed for. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. So let's go with this hypothetical. Let's say somebody drugs another person such that that other person can't be considered um, to be in the right mind to commit certain actions. And let's say they're about to kill another person.
Sure.
Is it justified to kill that drugged person in self-defense?
Yeah, always, because even if they're the innocent aggressor, if it's going to be like killing the other person, then yeah, you're always justified. Yeah, killing or maiming or something.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's say it's not killing. Let's say it's like something like serious or substantial bodily injury.
Then
Would
I
they
think
have?
still, I think you still could. Then the argument for pregnancy, personally, I don't think, I don't know, there's a trigger. I don't know if it would count as serious or substantial. Maybe it would.
Yeah, so
I don't know. I'd have to think.
I think
Yeah, go
it
ahead.
could be argued that it is because there's protracted and obvious disfigurement,
For nine
which is
months. Yeah, it's a
typically
long time. Yeah.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
somebody put the thing in
So
chat yesterday, like if pregnancy were 9 years, like intuitively my position almost 180s to where I think the bodily autonomy self-defense argument actually is totally valid. 9 years, I think, is a lot different. 9 months is a long time. If it was 9 days, would you agree that the intuition flips where it's like, okay, well, you could do a thing for 9 days, right? Rather than
yeah,
killing a
it's
baby.
kind of
Yeah, but
like there's some gray area there where like
sure.
it's not clear. I do think that 9 months is on the other end of that. Like it's a pretty long time
Sure.
with the sort of injury, especially if it's something that we would normally say that you could kill in self-defense if that were to happen to you. And I would say that it's furtherly overdetermined because the fetus has less consciousness than like a normal person, right?
I don't generally do the like different stages of consciousness. I think you kind of have to binary that one. Otherwise, you get kind of weird. Like as a person who's severely inebriated, is that person less conscious than an ordinary one? I don't know what the names are, but I think you'd give it a different phenomenon to describe it. I don't know if I'd say I'm less conscious. Like if I'm waking up in the morning or sleeping, I don't know if I'd say that person's less conscious. They're just like in a different state of awareness or something. But
Yeah, well, if we were to use like animals as an example, like maybe they'd be at like rabbit level, but they're not having these complex thoughts that, normal humans are.
I feel like the conscious experience thing, I don't know if I would tie it to like cognitive stuff, like how complex your thoughts are. I think it has to be a general awareness or experience thing.
Yeah, I would say even that because their brains aren't as developed in those areas.
Maybe.
Because like, the womb is a very like low oxygen atmosphere.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure.
Or they must get all the oxygen they need through the umbilical cord now.
To survive, but I don't know if it's enough for like complex brain activity that would generate like a normal like human conscious experience.
Possibly. I mean, I would assume it's 20 to 24 weeks because the parts are there, but I mean, it's hard for me to say, obviously. I don't remember being a
I think
embryo or
yeah.
fetus.
Yeah. But yeah, I would just say that I think the bodily autonomy arguments get a little bit overlooked in
Sure.
favor of the personhood arguments. And I agree that personhood is like when value begins, but it's not clear that even if there is value and they're a person, that supersedes the woman's bodily autonomy concerns.
Yeah, I mean, you can fight on the person to thing. You're just starting. I think, or I'm sorry, you can fight on the bodily autonomy thing. I just think you're starting from really far behind intuitively there, and then you have to build out. You have to do a lot of work, and you can stumble in a lot of places. I feel like the personhood one is more intuitively sensible, and it's easy to defend. But yeah, I mean, it is possible. Like, I'm sure the bodily autonomy thing might come up a bit, and I feel comfortable that I can navigate that realm. But it is much harder.
Yeah, and I would also say, have you read Judith Jarvis Thompson's paper, A Defense of Abortion?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so just the people seed stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Which is why I don't like the
Okay.
term. One guy tried to use that against me, the consent argument. I don't know if I would use I don't know if I would use consent if I would exchange that with the word or use that equally as the word like aware of a possibility of. I think that's a very dangerous
Oh, yeah.
equating of
Yeah.
those two things. Because to say that like I
No, yeah,
park
I
my car in
remember
a
that.
dangerous neighborhood, I'm aware that it could be broken into, but I certainly don't consent to it. And I think Judith's argument in her paper was like if you put up every screen you could, but
Mhm.
a person seed floats in and lands on your couch and a person starts growing, you have an obligation to house and everything. And it's like, well, did you consent to it when you're doing everything you could to block it? I don't know if I would say that that's necessarily the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say, yeah, I saw that. It's kind of begging the question what the pro-life position does sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
because um, they're arguing that oh wait, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. Um, oh yeah, that you're consenting to remain pregnant if you get pregnant. So I agree that when you have sex, you're consenting to a risk of becoming pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not the same thing as consenting to remain pregnant
Sure.
and give birth. So they're kind of smuggling that in. Like if you consent to the risk of becoming pregnant by engaging in sex, that you're somehow implicitly consenting to the further commitment of remaining pregnant.
Yeah, sure. Although she would
Um,
argue that if you consent to one, you necessarily ought to consent to the other. Have you ever read? There was a response paper that I read that moved me a lot off of the Judith paper. I wish I could remember. I don't even know what school this guy went to. I don't think it was a PhD or anything, but it was. It made this argument called. Have you ever heard of this concept of like de facto guardianship?
Something like that. Can
Yeah.
you explain that?
So basically, the argument was this is the one I kind of rolled with against Matthew Dillahunty. Basically, the argument for de facto guardianship is that if an agent is in a place and the agent is like healthy, so the person who could choose otherwise, and somehow through chance, misfortune, whatever, another person winds up in their care. And without having to make a significant sacrifice, on their own, like to die or something, right? Does this person have a moral and then potentially later on a legal responsibility to take care of that person? I feel like morally, I think almost all of us would say yes. I think legally, I think we can get close to it, but I think that that is a hard one to fight against. The hypothetical I think the author gave in that paper is suppose there's a really bad snowstorm, a person wakes up and they see there's a horrible snowstorm and they're barricaded in their home for 6 months. People know that they're barricaded in there, but they can't go in and they get the person. The person wakes up and not only are they barricaded in their home for 6 months, they also see they have an annoying fucking baby there. But they're given 6 months of food and supplies and baby formula and everything else, and they can feed the baby if they want, if they choose to. It's going to be annoying. They're going to spend hours doing it, but they could do it, right? Let's say that at the end of the 6 months, the snow thaws, media, police, everybody's knocking on the door. They knock on the door, and the person opens the door, and they're like, oh my God, you're here, you're alive. And the guy says, yes, I'm great. And they go, where's the baby? And they go, oh, I just let it die. I didn't want to feed it. I think almost everybody would say that like a moral crime has been committed there. And then the question is like, do you extrapolate that to legal stuff? What would your argument be against that concept of like de facto guardianship?
Yeah, so I agree with that sort of de facto guardianship. When it comes to resources, we already have that sort of in law. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can't be a negligent parent. You have to feed your kids and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say we take away the formula or whatever, and let's say that it's a woman who has breast milk.
Mm-hmm.
Should she be required legally to allow the child to, get milk from her breast?
So I think if you change it to that, I think people would still even say maybe yes. But if we want to intuition pump it a little on the woman's side, well, what if we say the woman had to provide breast milk, but the child was also her own child?
Hmm.
I think we would still say, yeah,
So
that de facto guardianship would apply there, right?
yeah, and I guess that's the question of what are like the limits of that de facto guardianship? Because
Yeah, because the limit start
Um,
to test basically is like how inconvenient is the pregnancy? How much of a bodily harm is the pregnancy versus the being that's inflicting it? Right? Is the question? Yeah.
but I think also how consistent is it with our other legal precedents? Because in other contexts,
Mm-hmm.
that would be considered, sexual assault close to rape
Mm-hmm.
outside of like our, because, with kids, we sort of have this intuition that getting breast milk is this normal thing. But if you remove that, let's say it's a grown man who
Mm-hmm.
needs the breast milk, then I think our intuitions change a little bit.
Do they? I'm thinking they probably would. Would they?
Yeah,
If there was
at
a
least
woman and
it's
a
less
man that were stuck in
clear.
some place, and let's assume for health reasons, the woman is plenty healthy, and the only way the woman could feed the man was through breast milk, but the woman says
Mhm.
no, does the man have a right to the woman's breast milk? We really do draw, it really sucks. Women kind of got fucked on this. We really do have a special delineation in society between stuff that comes from our body or that permits people to take things from our body or enter our body. That is like a pretty special category of
Mhm.
things that we generally would just don't ever allow, but children get kind of a pass on this, and then women are the sole things that are capable of providing this. So one, as
Yeah.
a man, I have obviously nothing morally or legally at stake, and then two, for a frame of reference, I don't even have like a true like personal experience buy-in. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a rough one. Sorry, I got.
I think there's like a little bit of a conflation between like our moral intuitions about what the woman should do
Mm-hmm.
and then our moral intuitions about legally what we should force the woman to do.
For
I
sure.
feel like sometimes those things are a little bit too entangled because like of course I have the intuition that the woman of course should give her breast milk to save anybody's life.
Mm-hmm.
But then legally I feel like that's a totally different question of should we be like forcing her to do that?
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. The only thing is, in society, the reason why it feels really bad to do this is because there are other ways to feed the baby. Either somebody else could feed the baby, or the baby could be fed with formula. In a society where there wasn't
Yeah.
enough food for the baby, or the woman had to breastfeed, I don't know if our legal intuitions would change or not. I'm not sure. There's just really nothing comparable to children, so it's hard to say. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, like I don't know how that would work before we created formula and other
Sure.
like things for babies to have. But yeah, I just think those are some things to think about on the bodily autonomy side of things.
Yeah. I think that I feel comfortable enough pushing. I feel like I could argue this side well enough. I think I could also do like a few callers ago the Pascalian wager to where on the personhood argument, I feel like I can argue it well enough that at the very least the other side must contend that there is a legitimate difference of opinion here, and so to march from the personhood argument to these obligations that a woman would have to provide her body, if there are legitimate disagreements as to the personhood of like a single cell zygote, and you're going to compel from somebody what truly is like the highest, arguably the highest form of compulsion. Like I think you could make the argument that it's dramatic that like, but it's even a higher form of compulsion than conscription, because in conscription you're not guaranteed to
Hmm.
ever get shot or die. If you're delivering a child, you're guaranteed to have 9 months of body morphing and all that whatever other bullshit. That
Yeah.
truly is that's a very tall order to force somebody to if there's legitimate disagreement as to the personhood even of the fetus initially. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you wanted to put it in like a legal context, I think there's a pretty strong argument that at minimum it would constitute substantial bodily injury in like a legal context.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
hard to do when a thing is designed for the thing. It's hard to the substantial bodily injury is an interesting. It's such a normatively loaded thing. Like if like for two gay dudes or whatever, or even for a man or a woman, like would we say like anal sex is like a substantial injury? Like it's a lot more injurious. I don't know if it's a real word than like vaginal sex or whatever else or jerking off or whatever. But like we wouldn't necessarily. Well, I guess asses aren't even made for
Well, it
sex. So it's
wouldn't
kind of
be
everything. Like,
substantial because there's like certain criteria. Like there's like tiers of injury. And like once we get to like substantial and serious, we're talking about like more serious things.
yeah, but because like a womb, not to lean on the naturalistic thing, but like I mean, it is like you have babies in there and then they come out of there. Like, what would we consider that a substantial serious injury? Like, what criteria are we using here that makes it count as a substantial serious injury?
Yeah, there's like specific criteria. Let me
Sure.
see
Well,
if
no,
I
I'm not
can.
worried. I'm not interested in like the American Medical Association. I'm just like in your mind, like what
Yeah, yeah.
is? Yeah.
Yeah, just the sorts of things that would significantly impact your life from like an injurious perspective. Like,
Okay, so like mobility
obviously,
restrictions, dietary
yeah,
restrictions, arguably, um, behavior restrictions. Like there's different things that you kind of cannot do now.
yeah,
Like
like
increased health
before,
complications in the future, right?
yeah, exactly. Like before we agreed that it was the sort of injuries that you could do lethal self-defense for. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we have the intuition that they're pretty severe, at least in some respects.
Sure. I do agree. I generally don't fall on the bodily autonomy side, but like not falling on that, like it would be as close as you could get to justifying lethal self-defense against even an innocent aggressor. And maybe I don't know, maybe I thought about maybe it would cross the line. Um, but yeah, I mean, I do agree. Yeah, it seems hard to imagine that in any other circumstance. It's hard to imagine almost any 9-month wound that wouldn't qualify as a serious injury for a man or a woman.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, exactly. And I think pairing the bodily autonomy with the personhood arguments would be even stronger because you could argue something like these are all of the bodily autonomy infringements, and it's for something that either isn't a person
mhm,
or only has some sort of minimal consciousness.
sure.
So it kind of overdetermines those arguments.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much all I had.
Okay. I love you. Be
But
careful.
yeah, hope you do well. Yeah, see you.